You are.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right. Welcome to Rough Riders Extra. Looks like we have, I don't know if these are guests or if I just don't show up to enough meetings and you joined Toastmasters, but I see, but I see Liz and the Pune Writers Group. So I guess Pune, since you're unmuted, could you introduce yourself? Let us know what brought you here.
Good morning. Good evening. My name is Dr. Swati Shom, and I am a Toastmaster at Pune, and I'm author of 3 different books, and I'm an organizer of the Pune Writers Group too.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us. I'll explain a little bit more about what we do. I just wanted to acknowledge the people here. And Liz, what brings you here?
I've gone to the regular Rough Riders meeting a few times, but this is my first time at the Extra.
Great. Well, thank you both for coming, and for your benefit, I'll explain a little bit about what Rough Riders Extra is. We're basically an extension of the main Rough Riders Club. The Rough Riders Club is focused on more traditional Toastmasters with speeches and so forth, but geared largely towards an audience of writers who want to be better speakers and speakers who want to be better writers. So it's kind of a melding of the two. Whereas Rough Riders Extra is really focusing more specifically on writing, not so much on our presentation skills, but just sharing our writing, getting feedback on our writing, learning different writing skills, which Ben Horak came just in time. He'll be teaching a workshop later in this meeting about a writing tool called Scrivener that you may or may not have heard of, that he, I think, will convince us all to use for all of our writing needs by the end of this meeting. But prior to that, one of the other common things that we do in these meetings is someone will share their writing in advance, a short piece, maybe 750 to 1,000 words, typically a rough draft, not a finished product, and they'll read it out loud, and then we'll give some round robin feedback, just provide a couple comments, things we enjoyed, things we suggest. And Will Valdez, who is also on, has graciously volunteered to or been volunteered, I'm not quite sure which, to share his work. I believe it's the intro to his anthology story. One of the things we do with Rough Riders is we've traditionally, over the last 4 years, contributed short stories to an anthology, and this year will be the fourth book that we will publish. Is it? Oh,
yeah, it's four.
Susan's trying to trick me. Or iPhone, aka
Oops,
iPhone.
Damn.
We've published 3 books as a club, contributing short stories on a common theme, and we're working on a 4th round of stories this time around. And Will, I believe I'm correct in saying that what you're sharing with us is the introduction to the story that you're contributing. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So what we'll do, again, I'll share my screen so we can read along with Will while he reads out loud, and then we'll have an opportunity to give feedback. Give me a moment, Will, and then I'll pass it over to you.
Okay, just to let everyone know, I corrected a few grammatical errors, thanks to Kathy, so it's not gonna be any major changes, maybe like 1 sentence here.
Okay, well, we'll ignore those.
All right. Why am I doing this?
Could you increase the font a little bit?
I'm sorry, what?
Could you increase? Yeah.
Better? Is that good?
Yeah,
Zoom
a little
in more.
larger would be easier. Yeah.
How's that?
This is good.
Now
Okay.
it's good.
Good. Why am I doing this? Why did I drive here? Why Why am I seeing her? And why the hell are there speed bumps? Aiden asked himself as he white knuckles the steering wheel of his red Mustang, looking at the heart that stands in front of him, the 3 speed bumps to enter Salvation Homes. Aiden is a pale, gaunt man. He is wearing a large polo shirt when he should be wearing a medium, possibly small. The watch on his wrist is way too big for his forearms. It practically slides up and down to his mid-wrist. His hair is thinning and showing signs of baldness at the front of his scalp. You suspect he had stolen his car for all the accessories on him. He can't hear the barrage of honks behind him from the 6 cars that have been waiting for him for the past 10 minutes. They would be driving past him, but there's an island that blocks them from going around him. A big burly man steps out of his vehicle behind Ian. His size is the equivalent of a Kodiak. The big man knocks on Aiden's window. Buddy, can you get moving already? We've been waiting out here forever. Aiden can't hear him as his mind is drawn to the road. The Kodiak knocks on the window even harder. Come on, man. We got people to visit. Aiden snaps out of it and sees the big man knocking hard. He rolls down the window. Hey, be careful, Sasquatch. Windows aren't cheap. Aiden raises his voice. Then move already. Okay, relax. I will go, Bigfoot. God damn it. Come on, it's only 3. Aiden takes a huge gulp of air and slowly presses on the gas, practically going 5 miles per hour. He tenses himself with what little muscle he has and hits the first speed bump. On impact, he clenches his teeth. A walnut could break in half between his jaw. He breathes out and takes a deep breath in. 2 more. He hits the second one. His yellow nails dig into the steering wheel where the other nail marks are left. He breathes out and takes a deep breath in. 1 more. He hits the third one. His heart is thumping even harder than before, sweating bullets inside his air-conditioned car. He can feel the earth twirling at 360 rotation. He rushes to the nearest parking spot and releases his breath. He begins to hyperventilate and moves his collar back and forth to cool himself off. He quickly opens his glove compartment and grabs the pills with his jittery hands. The doctor had recommended 1 pill for any anxiety attacks, but he swallowed down 2 instead. After he presses play on the car stereo for a CD called Positive Thinking Steps in Getting Rid of Negative Emotion, he takes a deep breath in and out. Aiden is walking on clouds, entering Salvation Homes with an enlightened, hubris feeling. After listening to his inspirational tape for 30 minutes and waiting for the drugs to kick in, he feels that same confidence he had once upon a time. He stops in his tracks and looks around the waiting room. There's beautiful redwood tile on the floor. The chairs have magenta covers with special back support cushioning. There's even a stone wall fountain by the front desk. This is not the same piece of crap home I left that old bat in, he thought to himself. From his recollection, this room had cheap foldable chairs, white tiles with a bunch of skid marks, and the wall where the fountain stands had a hole punched in it. Hello, the female clerk says with enthusiasm. The previous clerk was an old lady from what he remembered. In fact, the previous one looked like she could have been a resident of the facility. Aiden approaches the clerk. Hey, is this Salvation Homes? Why, yes, it is. Okay. Am I at the right one? Because I don't remember it looking like this the last time I was here. Well, I have worked here for a couple of years now. From what I know, this is only Salvation Homes in the area. Maybe I could find whoever you're looking for. Do you have a name? Agatha Patman? You know Agatha? She asks in astonishment. Yes, my mother, unfortunately, I'm sure she's been a nuisance since I've left her here. Quite the opposite. Your mother has been such a blessing to this facility. We always wondered how a sweet woman like her would never get a visitor. I'm sorry, there must be a mistake, because that woman's far from a blessing. Is there another Agatha in this place? Let me check real quick. The clerk types up her name on the computer. No, I don't see any other Agatha. Let me call in the nurse and guide you to her, just to confirm. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. I'm going to do it a little differently this time, and just we can just sit here for a moment and collect our thoughts, and then if someone wants to raise their hand, I will stop sharing my screen, and anyone who wants to provide feedback can raise their hand, and I will call on them momentarily.
Benjamin?
Yeah, thank you. All right, thanks, Will, for that
Thanks.
story. I read through that before you kind of spoke through it. So I have some ideas about some things that I liked and some things that I think you can just work on. I think some only issues that you have is really just showing more instead of telling. I think there's one scene that I thought was could really be cool is when the guy when Aiden presses play on the CD, instead of just saying what the CD is, why not actually do a dialogue of the CD actually running through the exercise, and you can make it as weird or interesting, whatever you like it, just as long as it fits the tone of your story. So if your story is going kind of a wacky weird, you can make it wacky weird. It could be align your chakra with the anal sphincter to your voice box, and it's just something weird like that. Or it could be breathe in, breathe out. That's something that's interesting. So you don't need to actually say what it is. You can just show the example of it and people get what's happening and that kind of stuff. And I think with some of your descriptions, you start off with the Rolex or the large watch, rolling up and down. It'd be cool to know what brand it is. If it's an offbeat Rolex, or is it Polex instead of Rolex, or if it is an actual Rolex. And that, I think I like that one, but then the next one, or previously, he had a polo shirt and they said it was too big or too small for him. So what you could do is you can describe his polo shirt as it's too fit, and it's actually you can still see the fat rolls in his his gut, because the shirt is scrunching it in and stuff like that, and you can describe that a little bit more, and that kind of gives us a stronger visual of your character.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the other section with the there's one line where he's trying to get his mind together, and he's trying to go over these speed bumps. You have a sentence where it says it is only 3, and I thought maybe, okay, is he talking about the time 3 o'clock, or is he talking about the 3 speed bumps? Because I kind of got mixed up in there. All you have to do is fix if it's the speed bumps, you said there's only 3 instead of it's only 3. I think that'd be more clear to know that he's talking about speed bumps instead of the actual time, because it seems like he's really late to something. That could also kind of be either way with that little sentence. And I think the other thing you could do is to see the world through his eyes. I think he did it well with when he's like, hey, this whole place used to be a dump, but now it's all shiny. You can also just play on those expectations. He should show up and there should be a hole here. There's not a hole, there's a fountain. And you start off with the woman saying hi, hello, and it's a new woman. What we should do is expect him to oh, I'm going to talk to this old hag again, and then something new. It's whoa, this is all different. So we actually follow through his experience of seeing something that's completely different than what he expected, and that kind of gives us a little more of an emotional connection with your character. But that's kind of my spiel. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Nice spiel. I see Susan's hand.
Thank you. I only have one question, Will. What's this guy got against speed bumps? No, as in, can you describe? Because I know what happened with my dad when he was ill, and we went over a few speed bumps really fast. And he was not a happy camper, and I heard about it. But is it going to bottom out his car? Did he go too fast one time and catch air? what is it about speed bumps that is kind of like making him like clutch the steering wheel really hard, other than the fact that he's visiting someone he doesn't want to visit? But it, you know, is it speed bumps, or is it the fact that he's visiting his mother?
At this point, I'm not supposed to reveal till the end of the story.
No, oh, gotcha. No,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm just waiting it for the end of the story, and then it reveals why he's not a fan of speed bumps.
Ah, grasshopper.
Yeah,
Thank
let's
you.
just say it's a past event that happened to him that reminds him of
I
something.
figured that, but you left us like, you know, hanging, and some of us are going, what's with the speed bumps? You know? Right, Lola?
Right,
Yeah,
Lola?
I mean, I'd like to just share something. I mean, I'm getting this description of this like really nervous, anxious. I don't know if I read into it right, but fearful guy. Yet the Sasquatch guy bangs on the window and he gets right in his face. He gets back in his face and say, hey, windows cost money. So I was like, okay, so I'm really not sure what his neurosis is, but he's not afraid of the guy that is a huge, humongous banging on the window. And then the banging on the window guy, he was chill. He was like, okay, so just get it together and move. So I'm just curious about that encounter. I mean, you let us know that it was challenging for him to get over those bumps. So when he did get over the bumps, he pulled to the side what people do when they've had some type of PTSD experience, which is what they do. Pull over, gather himself together. In the case that you had of your character, Aiden, he pulled over and put on his tapes, and what is it? How many 30 minutes later it took him to calm down? And why didn't he see something different as he drove up to the home? Because you get inside the home and then we see this whole spanking brand new place. Did the outside change?
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I loved it. You know, I love your stories. I love your dialogue. I'm just a big fan.
Yeah. I'm actually thinking of adding more to that dialogue too, between him and a Sasquatch. So I'm still thinking of like what to add.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing.
I see Ben.
Sorry, I forgot. I got more ideas for you. I forgot to tell you like why I liked your story. I like the setting of it, the whole thing. Like what I understand it is, it's in an old folks home essentially. Is that what I'm getting at? Yeah,
Yeah.
And those speed bumps, are those like the really small steep ones that if you hit it too hard, it's like because that's what I'm thinking of. I'm always thinking of these like motorhome speed bumps. And so I kind of see that as his car is like he's trying to get over these things and he's moving so slow that you have all these other old folks in their golf carts just speeding past him, like calling the names or something like that, if you want to go funny or something like that. But I really liked the setting of this old folks home, and I can actually see the kind of tackiness of it a little bit if you're going that direction, with the tackiness of like this fountain, plastic fountain that's on the wall, and we had this idea that the place was torn up, but then they fixed it up, but it's maybe not all that fixed up, because like you said, because you have that hole in the wall and someone just kind of covered it with a fountain. That's kind of what I'm thinking, like this thing is kind of a sham, as a facade happening. So I think you kind of build that intrigue at least in when I read it. So I don't know if that's your intention, but I also noticed that you're also hiding some facts from us until the very end. So I'm kind of very curious about how this is going to come down. So thank you for your story too.
I'll give Swati, Dr. Shum. However you
Okay.
prefer.
Well, I really enjoyed the overall story. Unfortunately, I couldn't read it ahead of time. This device that I have opened this morning doesn't have Microsoft Word, so I couldn't open it. but I heard it. One thing overall that we do different in our feedback sessions is that we have somebody other than the author reading it out, so that the intonations, we can see how the author can hear how other people read the story. So I thought that's an overall something that authors don't get to hear as it is, that how does somebody else read it? Do they stop at the same places that they expect somebody to stop at, and are the intonations similar to what's in their head? That's an overall thing. I was a bit confused about a few things. One was, I don't know what a Kodiak is. So I was like, okay, what is this word, Kodiak? I'll have to Google it. Then when he got stopped at an island with the speed bump, I was thinking, is this a science fiction story going to happen? That there's something about speed bumps and islands? And I was a little confused, wondering what is going to happen next. Where is this story going? Because nobody's so scared of a speed bump usually. So maybe something science fiction is going to happen. He's going to jump into another world or something. It wasn't clear to me why and how everybody was so calm about it. And there's this island in front. How does that stop somebody from overtaking? I'm from India right now. We overtake people on islands also.
Oh, okay.
Not obvious to me. Then I was like, oh, this is based in the United States, and they drive in such a way that they don't overtake on islands, perhaps, or maybe not. I don't know what the story is about. So I was really wondering why he so scared. I think other people have said this also. I was also wondering whether there were signposts for the hospital, and looking at the signposts on the islands, that's what was causing him to have this problem, that just before the hospital, the signs for the hospital, this hospital or hospice or whatever is in this direction, and that's why he's getting nervous. And I think things that we were mentioned before, that is there a change in paint? Is there a change in the doors? What is he seeing? He's coming after a long time. Does it look the same? Is there a new extension? Suddenly they're revolving doors. He doesn't know how people come in and out of these doors, or maybe he's locked out kind of because he doesn't know how to enter the building anymore. Something like that. I just thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm seeing many hands now. Jessica and Carrie and Susan, I think I saw your hand again too.
Oh, we can't hear you.
Your audio sounds like the Peanuts cartoon. But, it's very muffled. I think she said somebody else. Yeah, Carrie, go ahead.
All right. Will, there's a lot intrigue here because you've kind of given us a lot of little hooks here. My mind works when I hear the word Salvation Home and he's paused at 3 bumps in front of me. Boy, that sounds like foreshadowing to me, whether it is or isn't. I really like that because it really got my mind going. Okay, 3 bumps. Oh, what could that signify? Salvation Home. Oh, okay, that could be death. That could be birth. It could be almost anything. And it's really, really good. It really got me going there. What everybody else has said, Ben and everybody has given you some great ideas. Let me just add one to the mix. When you go into an old folks home, I hate to say this, but one of the things that hits you right away is the smell. And one of the things that he coming into this home, he doesn't have the mandatory smell of an old folks home. And that is something that, foreshadows what he sees when he finally gets to the lobby and, the new, bright, cheerful receptionist and, the well poshed out area that is now there. But smell I think is a big thing that you can bring in that will all of a sudden, you could use it either as a foreshadowing or as just a way to say that the whole place has radically changed from the way it was that he remembers it a few years beforehand. But great story. I really want to find out what happens here because you've given us such many tantalizing pieces to chew on.
Okay. I do want to ask the audience a quick question. Do you have a feel of what kind of character Aiden is? Like, do you feel like you know?
I'm not supposed to say that word anymore.
What word?
It's it
word?
starts with a W and ends with a ger.
I don't think that's what he said.
How about that Offspring song, "Pretty Fly for a White Guy"?
Oh, that's what
I
you
got.
got.
Gotcha.
How you see this character?
Uh-huh.
Can I go? I got a sense like someone was saying that he's kind of like timid, like neurotic. So it was kind of interesting the way he stood up to the big burly guy. And he just seems kind of like he doesn't know who he is. He has his clothes are too big, his watch is too big. I don't know if he like has hand-me-downs or he just, is just not in fashion or can't afford to buy new clothes or and then when you find out he hasn't visited his mom in so long, you kind of get a sense of he's a jerk, but then you find out maybe it's because she's not very nice or she wasn't very nice to him. So maybe he was abused. I don't know. That's the sense I got.
Lola?
I got Joker. Okay.
Joker?
This guy, Aiden, is typical of a child that was abused by his mama. Therefore, he can't give it back to her. So he blows up on other people. So he's been in an anger management program. And it came to me as Liz was summarizing some of the, the things that you wrote about it. But I got a classic case of an abused child by the mom. And he had no other choice but to put her in the home, the worst home he could find, because he couldn't physically abuse her, but then he goes off on everybody else. That's why he's in anger management. And the tape that he's got is what his therapist gave him when he starts to lose it. So that's what I got. I got classic Joker, the last one.
You're actually pretty close, Lola. You're pretty close.
I want to see if Jessica's audio is working okay now before we, if you're still.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's better.
Oh my gosh. this webcam. Oh, okay. So what I was gonna originally say, let me go back to this. Let's pull this back out. Oh, so what I thought was, so overall, I really enjoyed the story. I appreciate the ending the most. I just really like the idea of like, oh, he's gone for some time and he thinks that like what he knows of his mother is very different than what other people perceive her as, especially in the home. And that confuses him because he expects his mother to be, I don't know what his mother is actually like. I think that's the sense of mystery there. But like he assumes that she's probably causing a problem at the home, but she isn't, and he's actually told that she's doing really well and is a nice person and is highly confused. So I thought that was a very good place to stop in terms of presenting because it leaves a lot more intrigue. I want to know more about Agatha. In terms of what I think Ben said earlier, in terms of the description itself, there are times when it is highly descriptive that I really enjoy. Was the part where it's like, this is not the same piece of crap nursing home I left that old bat in. And that's when he describes the cheap foldable chairs, the tiles with a bunch of skid marks, and the wall where the fountain stands had a hole punched in it. And I think times like those is when the description is really well done within the story. But then when we go back to, as Ben was saying with the CD, but even just this part right here where it says the doctor had recommended 1 pill for any anxiety attacks, but he swallows down 2 instead. I feel like these are things that could have been like more so describing the scene itself instead of it being told. along with the CD and other parts. So I think it would just be a thought in terms of reworking the areas where you can spend more time describing and showing the scene instead of telling, because I can see that you can do it. It's just that it just needs some work in some areas. I also agree, I did not know what a Kodiak is. I'm sorry.
Everybody knew what a Kodiak was. Okay.
Yeah,
It's a bear.
listen. I don't really play with animals like that, so.
Okay.
But I also, in terms of Aiden's character, I also got I know a lot of people were saying, I don't know, necessarily neurotic. As somebody, he seems like he just has a lot of anxiety. He definitely has a lot of anxiety, is what I saw of his character. And I don't know if it's more so a triggering event in terms of the fact that he's going to visit his mother that he doesn't have a good a good relationship with, or if he in general is someone that tends to have multiple anxiety attacks, which is obviously we only have a certain section of the story, so I wouldn't know all that, but that's all I really had to say. Glad my audio works now.
Thank you.
Lydia.
I have real quick, just because I didn't read the story, I only listened to the story. And I might be biased because of your other work. But I had the question about the speed bumps, but as you were going on, for whatever reason, in the back of my mind, I was picturing the son in the Bates Motel scene in Psycho. That's what was coming to mind. And I don't know if that's where you're going with it, but that's what I was thinking with your description.
Unfortunately, I'm not going that direction. It'd be interesting though. Cynthia?
So for me, as soon as you said he had a Mustang and he didn't want to drive over the speed bumps, and then he's wearing like an oversized baggy shirt, I'm like, oh, he's that guy. So maybe, maybe talk about more like those guys with those Mustangs, and they're so precious about them because they think that their big muscle car is equivalent, like that's how he's compensating for not having his own muscles, like it's all like a put on stuff, and he's just this like scrawny puny guy.
Yeah.
So
It seems that way, but I'm not gonna give up too much. So.
Susan.
But that's the setup.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'm done.
Good job. Also too, you had a great opportunity when he had the small disagreement with Sasquatch for something other than nice to happen. And if any of you have been in car situations where you've made the other driver angry, there's a way that you can say something without raising your voice and indicate to the driver that you're going to kill him. And we all know that I have this love of violence anyways, but I think that when the guy Aiden rolls down the window, that Sasquatch needs to grab his collar, her shirt collar, and pull him closer and say what he needs to say. Kind of a show, more of a show. Don't tell us what happened. Grabbed him by the collar, dragged him partially out the window. Buddy, you need to get a move on it, or you are going to be a speed bump. Oh, I like that one. I have to write that down for me later. Okay, just saying. So give us a look. It was a great opportunity, but I think you missed developing that just a little bit more. Okay, that's all. I'm done, I swear.
You want to go for humor, it could be a speed hump.
My bud, Lydia.
Oh yeah, but remember when those guys that thought that they could, when you don't know who a character is, especially when they're tense, because by putting the hands on someone else, that becomes an assault, and that sets up a different kind of situation. So I got the character when the Sasquatch guy came over to this little tiny nervous guy, and he explodes. I
Not
said, "Ooh."
explodes. Not
Well,
explodes. Explodes is this. Okay.
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 Okay,
That-
all right.
But just reaching in, grabbing him by the shirt
But that's
collar.
touching somebody. That's touching. That's abuse. That's assault.
Could be.
So we don't know what the guy in the car got. He might have a weapon. Somebody grabs him. He's got his hand on a gun.
That's true too.
See?
Want to be controversial, it could be in a uniform.
Mm.
Well, we're
Lydia,
creeping
you
up on.
just-
Sorry, go ahead.
No, we're creeping up on Ben's time. That's right.
Yeah, he
Oh,
just
you
needs
can,
like
you
half
can
an
keep
hour.
going. You can keep going. No problem.
We'll just
We
read
want to
the
hear
last 5
about
minutes.
Scribner.
You don't need to.
Will's
Yeah,
got a
we
bunch.
do.
Will's got a bunch of ideas to play with.
Yeah. It's complete. I was gonna ask like where you think it's gonna go, but I want to give it off to Ben because I actually use Scrivener as well, and it's a great app to use.
Ooh.
Take it
So
away, Ben.
Will not only has a story, but he provided the intro for Ben, so I'm not going to say anything else.
There you go. That's a pro move, Will. Pro move.
Oh, thank you.
All right, guys. So I want to know by raise of hands, how many have heard of Scrivener? Just have you ever heard of it? Are you scared of it? Yeah. Oh, so Fernanda hates it. So, you're muted, Fernanda.
I just don't know.
You just don't know a thing about it.
Just that's because I don't know about it.
Okay,
Sorry.
that's great. That's fine. So we have a couple people who are interested and want to learn a little bit more about Scrivener. I've actually been using it for over a year. And I got to tell you, I'm not going back to Word and other types of programs just because of all the rich features there are. One thing about Scrivener is it can be, once you download it and take a look at it, you're going to freak out from the interface. But I'm going to help you kind of go through each of these processes and kind of show you how it all works. And hopefully maybe you'll check it out. So I need to share my screen. So let me grab this first. So we're going to actually go to the website, Literature and Latte. Can you guys see my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Takes up the full screen. Okay, great. So Literature and Latte is the company that makes it. They're actually like a really small company, but they've made some really great software. And that is also Scrivener. So Scrivener, let's get in here. They have it for both the Windows, Linux, and the Mac operating systems. The Mac versions work for the desktop, their iOS, like the iPad and the iPhone. The Windows version is primarily for desktop. They are going to work on a mobile version so that Android will eventually be able to have that as well. The cost, I think, is only about $40. So we buy this, see what happens. I think it went up to $49, and that is a one-time payment. You don't have to pay $50, and that's all you have to pay. So it's not like Word where you're paying $6 a month or other types of subscription software. This is a one-time payment, and you go. And I think the Windows version is same price. The iOS version is only $20. So I have an iPhone, so I'm using the iOS version for my iPhone, and I'm using a desktop version, which I'm about to show you in a few minutes. You can also buy a bundle if you really want to, if you've got multiple computers. Okay, so let's swing over. Let me stop my share real quick. We'll switch over to Scrivener. Okay. All right, you guys can see my screen okay? All right, so Scrivener is a complex, feature-rich software. It's not like Word or like Evernote, where it's just kind of you have one page, you just type it out and then you save it, and you have to come up with a new page to write a different type of document. So say you want to make an outline, you want to write your story, and maybe you have a couple pages for research, or you want to develop your character and have like character notes that you can reference. With a Word environment, you kind of have to like flip between all those different documents just to, as you're writing, it's just not practical. What Scrivener does is it actually combines all of your research in one project, all of your writing, all of your rough drafts. If you have websites or photography or videos that you want to incorporate, it can also do that too. What's also cool is that it can export into a lot of different formats like Word, but also Kindle, and even other types of writing software. Like if you're a screenwriter, it can export to a screenwriter software. I think like Final Draft or something like that. Okay, so the interface, we kind of have a traditional file menu up here, but over here on this left side is called the binder. And the binder is made up of multiple folders that you can customize. The default is you have kind of a main folder where you're going to write your story in, and you have a research folder where you can dump in all kinds of information about your story that you want to research. And you can also do like a little trash can. It's kind of interesting, if you want to throw it away, it doesn't actually delete it. It's kind of like a recycle bin. So you just kind of throw things in there if you don't like it, and then you can delete it later once you're really sure that you don't want it. So what I've done is actually I've created custom stuff. I have like a planning folder for my story where I can go through and have these kind of default templates that I can go through, and maybe I can build little tables and even reference. I'll copy and paste stuff from other blogs and stuff that help me understand how to write stories, and just like basic stuff like that. But let's go over here to the draft. So the one thing a Scrivener does is it does something called a scrivening. So what the heck is a scrivening? A scrivening is actually just a page, like what their version of a page is, but it can be lots of different things. So your page can be a separate piece, but it can also be read. Like I can click on each one of these and just read each page as its own. Or I gotta move this over here. I can click on this folder, and it's gonna load my whole document, and I can actually read the whole thing from beginning to end as a continuous book. So I can read it as a whole thing, or I can break it up into smaller chunks. And this is really good because on this left side here, what I've done is actually broken all of my chapters into smaller chunks, into smaller scenes. So each chapter might have multiple scenes built in. And I can either move these around, and I'll show you a little bit later how to do that. And I can either get rid of them or such. The thing that makes Scrivener so cool is you can actually see your whole story in different ways. So this is kind of like your feed, like your actual detail of reading your story. But let's say, like in a traditional story development cycle, you tend to like write your scenes on a piece of notebook, on a note card or a sticky note, and you put it on your wall, and you're kind of rearranging scenes and trying to figure out the structure of your story. Well, Scrivener can do that in a snap. So up here are like different views. So if you click on this, I gotta switch. I gotta click on my folder first, and then I can do this. Click on that. There we go. So now this is actually a novel that I'm working on. It's 40,000 words at the moment, but each of these is a note card that I can move and rearrange. Let me go over here, do that like that. So now chapter 2 is over here, which is not supposed to do that. But what happens when I move things around, it actually reshifts everything in the binder as well. So everything changes and stays organized no matter how you rearrange this stuff. It's really actually that powerful, and you can see your work from a very detailed view, from seeing everything that you're seeing, and then you can pull back just a little bit to get a broader sense of where your story's heading, certain things like that. We also have something called the outline view. This is literally an outline where you can actually look at a detailed description. So you could say like what the title of the scene, description of the scene. I've created labels where I actually can see, oops, let me click on that, what characters are in that particular scene. So it's like keywords and a location of like where they are at any time. That helps. It gives me a very just a really far away view of my novel to understand how things are organized. And I can quickly search all of these things just in case, like, okay, this takes place at a certain location. I can actually search for that and find all the different scenes where that location is. And I can make edits in case an editor says, hey, this location is just too calm. You need to make it more crazy looking, or you need to make it more detailed and fleshed out. And so I can go back quickly instead of going through 40,000 words to try to find those scenes. I can quickly pop those up by using something called the search. So I can just go in and search something. So I typed in a character's name, and up pops out all of the scenes where Simone is actually located. And I can go in and just kind of refine my character with the Simone character. Okay, you guys following me? It's pretty crazy, right? So with the note card, I'm gonna get out of this real quick. Get to the binder. I'm gonna switch to a simpler short story mode. So I can, all right. Do you guys see this screen? Okay, good. It's a little simpler. This is the short story I'm working on for the anthology. It's called The Conquering Echo. And right now it's about less than 8,000 words. I got to cut some stuff down. So what I do with the research here is, in the research folder, I can import Word actual web pages, and I can even split the screen. Let me just go over here. So I have a web page, and I can go over to a document, and I can be looking at research while I'm actually writing. And this is a faster way than having to go off your writing app, go online, go find Wikipedia, find something about flowers, realize about, oh, what's the impacts? And then you get distracted and you go off in another tangent and you never go back to writing again. This actually keeps you locked in. Let me get over to, oops. Yeah, this keeps you locked in. You guys can see my screen, right? Hopefully I didn't push you guys out. This allows you to actually have multiple documents open rather than having Word where you have like 2 documents on either side, or you're having to flip between 2 different documents. You can have everything all at once, which is great. And you can even do, let's go, all kinds of tables and stuff like this, and you can have like imagery. So if you're writing your flash fiction for Toastmasters, and we're given an image to write about, this is the best way to do it, because you can just have the image and keep writing and coming up with ideas. Now, if this interface is like too much for you, like there's too much going on, you can always just kind of simplify things. Over here in the binder, you can just actually take things off, or you can just have this, or you can actually hit F11, but we can go here, something called composition mode. When I click on composition mode, it switches, I think, can you guys see this? Is it different? Okay, great. Because sometimes I don't know if Zoom is actually picking this stuff up. So this is actually an image that I created, and what you're seeing is text that you just saw, but it's now in this new mode that's simple, and you're just looking at the words. I don't
think it changed.
Oh, okay. I bet you I might not be able to show you this because of how it is working. Okay, well, you have to take my word for it. Sorry, I guess the Zoom limitation doesn't allow you to see the window that pops up. So what happens is this whole interface that you see disappears, and all you see are your words. So it's just a blank screen with your words, and you can just type and do like a conscious style and just kind of go and do it.
Well, that's what we're seeing. We're seeing just your words.
Oh yeah, but this whole interface disappears. So everything that you see, like all of this stuff at the top, the menus, that all disappears too. And yeah, so it's actually just, think of like your whole screen just goes blank and there's just words. So there's no absolute zero distraction what's happening. And as you're typing, the letters actually stay in the middle. So you're not having to like look down at the bottom of your screen where the typed is. It just stays in the middle, and you can just kind of go with the flow and keep writing and not have any distractions at all. Okay, so the other thing you can do is there's something called the inspector. So the inspector is attached to every little scrivening, every page that I create. Let me get this in here, pop this back. So the inspector allows me to write a synopsis. So for my short story, I have different scenes here that I've written. And I have also added, for most of these, a synopsis for me as a note for me to understand what that scene's about at a glance. Let me move this over. And I also have notes here. So in case I want to write some extra text, like I need to get to this point, or maybe I need to think about certain types of words like smart scope, wind speed. These are things that are kind of reminding me as I'm writing that I might want to include. I can include this here, and it's going to be unique for each scene. So it'll change depending on what scrivening or little scene that I have. You also have bookmarks. So in case you have lots and lots of files and you're trying to reference between certain files in your whole project, you can kind of put them here. So let's say you have like 6 character sheets of a character, like your main character, you kind of written a description about what your main character is and how he works, or you have some sort of information about the world that you're building and you want to write about like the architecture and stuff like that. And sometimes you need some reminders as you're writing, so you can just pop over, link a bookmark, and you just click it in there. You can really just do this. You just click and drag, and there it is. So that I can just quickly move over. Okay, he's talking about this, that kind of thing. Now we kind of get into the nitty gritty stuff with this. Basically, it's called custom metadata. For me, this is kind of like nuanced. It's really based on your style of writing and what you want to keep track of. For me, I like to keep track of what characters are where in my story. So what I do is each scene, I will actually add keywords. So in this scene, I have a whole bunch of people in my scene. I want to make that sure that I'm doing it right, because when I look at the outline, I don't want to have too many characters at the beginning or too many characters at the end. I kind of want all my characters kind of in the middle. It's kind of like the Wizard of Oz style of storytelling. Because in the Wizard of Oz, if you guys remember, it's just Dorothy and a few guys. But when we get into the Wizard of Oz world, all these characters come out. Like you have the witch and you have the munchkins and all these crazy stuff that happens. And at the end, she's back with just Dorothy and the people of the ranch hands. So that's kind of like a good way of making sure that your focus of your story is based on your character and not necessarily on the world that you're building, and try to overtake your reader's imagination by giving them way too many characters to keep track of. The other thing I want to talk about is something called snapshots. So snapshots is this way of recording all of your writing as a way of like a rough draft. And this was scary. For the longest time, I didn't use snapshots because I didn't understand it, and I didn't realize how powerful it was. What I would do is I would write a whole scene, and then I would just like make a new copy, like here the plus sign, make a new scene, and I would just make this draft 2. And I had to put all this whole thing into another folder. And I realized this was just nonsense. I was taking so much time just to create a whole new document for a second draft. And so once I learned about snapshots, I realized how fast this is. So here's my rough draft, and the snapshot is really doing this. I kind of have this here. I hit the plus sign over here. It takes a picture of everything, and when I click on it, here it is. And I can delete this whole thing, and I can go back, paste it back in. And I can rename these different drafts. So I can continue to write on this. Maybe I don't like this whole thing, get rid of it, like snapshot. Now I have this section, and I have another one here. So this is really kind of draft 1, and maybe this is draft 2. And I can always go back to any changes that I made because I don't actually delete anything. And all of the drafts are in this little scene. So I don't have to get rid of this either. It's all in one file. I'll never lose track of anything as long as I, label these so I know what they are. There is a little date here so you know when you took it. So obviously as a chronology idea, that stuff that you wrote before is going to be worse than what you wrote later, hopefully. But that's kind of helps me to keep track of my drafts and making sure that I'm on track and I don't lose any content or afraid to lose content. All right. Here's a couple things that Scrivener does that I really like. They have something called writing tools, and there's something called the linguistic focus. Let's see. First, I gotta actually select something. Oh, what happened? I think something crashed. Oh, I think my computer went somewhere else. Okay. Can you see the screen that just some of the text just faded? Just want to make sure you guys are seeing this.
I see it.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Okay. I think I accidentally flipped to another taskbar, so I was like, I'm not in the right place. Okay, so linguistic focus is a way of showing, none. So linguistic focus is a Windows feature. So when you're writing your scene and you want to just focus on the dialogue, what you do is you hit the direct speech, and you can pull this out a little bit. Let's see if this fixes. And so now only the scenes where actual dialogue is being shown. So stuff that's dialogue or is basically within quotes is being highlighted, so you can kind of read it through and make sure that the characters are sounding the way they should, or maybe you're not really getting a sense of what the dialogue is supposed to be. You can do this so you can just quickly do the edits on your dialogue. With the Mac version, you have more robust features. So there's actually, you can select just the adverbs, just the nouns, just the verbs, just all the different word classes. So you can kind of focus on making sure that all of your diction, your word choices are blended. Okay. Here's another thing I really love. It's the name generator. You ever like writing around and you're just trying to come up with a name? So you stop what you're writing, you go on Google, you search names of 17th century England. Then you have to like find a name that you like, and then you have to go back into your writing app and paste it in. Well, you don't have to do that. With this, I can actually select either like a male or female or both. I can have a forename, like maybe I don't know what the forename is, but I know what the last name is of the family. Like, I'll just say my last name, but I don't have a forename. So what I could do is I can go here, and at the bottom of the screen, I have all these different ethnic last names. Yeah, can you hit?
I'm not seeing this.
Oh, dang it. Let's see.
Are you sharing your desktop or just the app?
Can I share desktop?
I think you can share the whole screen as opposed to just
That's what I was hoping for. It doesn't share. Let's see.
If you do screen 1 or screen 2 as opposed to a specific application.
Because it's giving me. Here's the screen. Okay, can you see this name generator thing?
Yep, I can
yes.
Now. Oops.
And now it's gone.
Okay, all right. Well, before I do that, let me show off this composition mode. Can you see this? Can you see that now?
Yep.
Is it a rock and some other stuff?
Yep, it's a rock, some other stuff. So this is the actual composition mode where you can customize it the way you want it to look. I put a little background that I created for my story because it's relevant to the story that I'm writing. And here is the actual story that I'm working on, or at least a scene of it. And I can scroll down here. Let me move this a little bit. So I have like a paper position, so I can move this from the side, and I can widen it or make it smaller. I can get rid of the picture, make it transparent. Actually, that won't show that. So if I didn't have this picture, it'd just be like a black screen, or you can choose any color you like. This kind of helps you kind of get into the mood of writing. So if you have a picture of something you want to experience while you're writing it, you can do it right here, and you don't have to worry about all of this clutter, all this stuff that's happening out here. All right, so that's that. So let's bring over to the name generator. So I have my last name here. I need a foreign name really quick. So let's do, I have some Catalan, maybe some Hindi. I hit generate, and it's not gonna give me, here, let's do this real quick for demo. I think, well, I think I need a, I'll just do all of these. There we go. So it does, it's like a random name generator, and you can just copy and paste whatever things you like. And you can do as many as you need, up to 500 if you need to just kind of, if you're talking about a whole village of people and you just want to have some names for them, it's totally easy. Or if you just have a throwaway character, like we've got Cosmio Drui. There we go. That's a cool character name. You just throw that in. I mean, we got Diego McCormack. I mean, we got Baltasar Bagwell. That sounds like a great guy. Anyway, so it helps you like break the credit, because sometimes I always like stick to names that I know, and this is a really great way of experiencing names from all over the world that you can just generate really quickly. So that's fun with that. There's also a speech portion. Probably not going to work here because I'm working with a speaker system, but let me get out of here. Over speech. So the speech, depending on your operating system, if you're using with Windows, I think you only get stuck with David and Zira, but I think you're on a Mac, I think you get like 5 different voices. And you can kind of play with the pitch of their tone, how fast, and the volume. And basically all you do is just select text and and Scrivener will speak the text to you. And like, why is that important? Because a lot of times when I write really fast, I miss words, or I want to hear how it just kind of sounds as it's being spoken. Because sometimes when I see it in my head, I'm already filling in the gaps of what I think the text should be because I'm moving so fast. But with the text to speech, it's just a robot voice telling you what it is, and you realize that you're a failure in life and you want to go home. So that's how that works. So the project has a couple cool features. It has project settings. This allows you to kind of customize your labels. So in case if you're organizational nut, like it can give you colored coding to color code certain scenes. Maybe you have like certain POVs. You want to mark the point of view of certain scenes so you know that that character is at certain point of scene, and maybe another scene has a different character point of view. And you just want to make sure that you have an even amount, or maybe your lesser character has way too many point of views and you have to scale that back. So it kind of helps you stay efficient in terms of making sure your story works. You can also have like status. So I can actually mark, I can actually mark this as a status. So like, this is like a revised draft, and I can keep doing, so I can make sure that whatever draft I'm on, I know what it is. So I can tell it's a first draft, a second draft, or a final draft, and I don't accidentally write over it, which is usually kind of important. In terms of, we'll skip all this because this is just kind of nitty gritty stuff. One thing I really like is the project target. So let's say you want to like focus on writing more, and you want to write maybe like 500 words a day, maybe 1,000 words. This kind of helps you do that. So what it does is you just set the length of your story. Like I'm trying to write a 7,500 word, which is the maximum story for the anthology. And I want to write about 2,500 words a day if I can. Every time you're writing, Scrivener is keeping track of this. And then once you hit a certain point, there'll be a little ding on your screen that says, hey, you did it, you made it, you can take a break, grab a beer. Or which is always good, or have 2 beers, whatever you want to do. And you can also set how it's going to count all this. You can even set a deadline. So it kind of helps you, Scrivener kind of helps you stay on track to certain things. And you can also, like, you can give like if you have a certain writing regimen, like I only write in the morning or I only write at night, you can set this up so that Scrivener will make sure that it's not counting something that maybe you wrote later in the afternoon, and you didn't want it to count because that wasn't necessarily your writing time. You just happen to just be poking around. It won't count that. And so you kind of stay on track. Doing on time, 7:30. Statistics is something new. So it kind of gives you like all of your your word count, stuff like that. But then it'll get into reading time. How long is your story going to last? 30 minutes, an hour? How long does it take to read? And it can also give you an estimate of how many pages if it's going to be a paperback book. So currently my story is 22 pages. So that's kind of interesting. And also give you a little quick word frequency. This is kind of useful. It kind of tells you how many words you're using. A lot of times I use a lot of glue words in my draft, like those, that's, in, what, when. They're not really useful in writing, so you want to make sure that these words kind of get lower in the percentage in your final draft. The writing history is pretty cool because it'll tell you how many times you've written every day based on the months, and it'll give you order, and you can actually export this out. So if you're just trying to track how much time you're writing, it's actually good. Why would you do this? Well, it's really great when you can see if you are improving in your writing or not. Tracking your work actually helps. This week, I wanted to write faster in terms of typing. So I actually just created a Google Doc where I would take a typing test, like a 1-minute typing test online. And like Monday, I was around 55 words. Today, I scored 71 words per minute. And it's because I was focused. I was practicing every day, and I was filling out my little tracker, something that personally I wasn't willing to do. Like, I was so not into keeping track of things. It's really just because I want to push myself further that I started doing this, and I'm realizing that when you see yourself grow, you actually want to do it more, and you get better and better. So always track your work, make sure that you're getting the goals that you want to get, and you're going to get there pretty far, I'll tell you that. Okay. I'm going to talk about one last thing. It's called the compiler. Now, the compiler is probably the most complex thing about Scrivener. Let me close this real quick. Yeah. Oops. So the compiler is a way of exporting your work into different types of formats. So up at the top, you can either print it on your printer, you can make a PDF, you can do a simple rich text format. You can also do Microsoft Word, or an older version of Word. You can do OpenOffice. You can export it as a web page, a final draft, which is like screenplay stuff, and you can do Kindle books. So you can go from here directly to Kindle and put it on Amazon and sell it for $4,000. You have one person needs to buy it, and you're good set for life, essentially. But there's other features for the compiler that does that's really great. One thing is that it can format your text into different ways. So if you want to do a proof copy, you basically select proof copy, you hit compiler. What it does is it takes your story and it adds at the top, like, this is for proofing only. It has a set of how many words on the right corner. It'll put your last name, the title of your page, and the page number for each of your pages. So it kind of does all of the work for you, so you don't have to worry about formatting. And it has a bunch of different types of, like, if you're doing a screenplay, it'll format it for a screenplay. If you're trying to do an outline, it'll do an outline. It has it, and you can also customize this so that you can, for when Cynthia asks for your manuscript and she needs it in a certain format, hint, hint, you can actually just customize this. So you do it once, you set it up, and every document that you submit to Cynthia, exporting that template is going to be perfect for Cynthia, and she's not going to complain. So there you got it. All right, so I think that's enough. I think I might have blown your brains out. I'm going to open up for Q&A in case you guys have any questions. All right, so Brad, what's up?
So I see you can export to Word. Which is kind of the beginning of my question. So say you want to share your work with somebody else who doesn't have Scrivener. You want to get, like, you export it to Word, you send it to them, they turn on track changes, they put their comments in, ship it back to you. Can Scrivener pull all of that back in for you to continue?
I think the edits, probably not, because I think the edits are separate. So yeah, so if you, I know you can import a Word document back in. There's a feature where you just kind of import, you kind of go up to projects, you hit import, and it'll actually take that document and import it in as like a scrivening, like the text that you just saw. But the edits won't actually be done. However, I think if you're in Word and you like what they made, I think you just hit, yes, I accept. And I think it makes that change. If that's the case, then you just do that. You just admit the ones you don't want changed, do the ones you do, and then just import it into Scrivener, and it's going to be all there for you. So that's kind of an easy answer.
Cool.
Oh yeah, Lola, what you got?
Okay, so now I understand all of those notes that you gave me, and it makes sense in Scrivener. Therefore, my question is, if I get Scrivener and I run into a challenge, could I email you a question that you would respond to?
Absolutely. I'm actually,
Okay.
I was going to say that. So the cool
Thank
thing
you.
about, so you don't have to buy Scrivener right now if you don't want to get it. If you're interested in get it, don't buy it. There's actually a download trial version that you can try it out, see if you like it. If it's too complex, you know, there's also a great YouTube community of tutorials out there, so you can find someone who can explain things better. And we can always, if you have my email address, please come to me. I will ask any question, and I like answering questions, and I like being stumped because that makes me want to go out and search for an answer, because I hate not solving problems.
And I got a Mac, so we can interface.
Perfect. Also, think about the download trial. It's good for 30 days, but it's not a countdown. It's 30 days of you using it. So if you use it for like 2 days and then you don't use it for 6 months, you still have 28 days. Wow. So it's that cool. It's not gonna like, you know, you didn't use it for 30 days. Now you have to buy it. No, that's not gonna happen. So yeah, Will.
Just a quick comment. Scrivener is a great, especially price wise, it's $40, which isn't bad compared to other ones like Final Draft. I think it was called like $200, and I was recommended by Professor to use this. And the great part of Scrivener is it has variety, where you can also make a screenplay, possibly make a play itself as well, or even write short stories or a novel as well.
Here, I agree. Because with Word and at Microsoft 365, every time I write something, I don't know where it goes. See?
Yep.
Actually, I want to show just one real quick thing before we go back. Sorry, I'm going to show off. I forgot to show off this part. Okay. So remember this, let's do this. Remember this note thing that we were talking about? These all different note cards for all of your scenes. Well, Scrivener actually created a little timeline system. So you can have multiple, so let's say you have multiple plots. So the thing about this is you can actually move things over to different time for different parts, so you can keep your stuff organized. So maybe the center column here is my main story, and let's say I have some backstory that I got to keep track of, then I can just slip that over here, and it won't play into this. So when I kind of split this up, so I'm going to do a little tricky thing here. So as I'm writing, I can make sure that, okay, I'm actually, sorry about that. Let's do this again. There we go. So I can actually keep track of the scenes that I'm writing as I'm writing it. So it's kind of like this becomes almost like an outline for myself. And I can make sure that if I have any backstory here, that I know what's happening in the background while I'm focusing on the writing the actual story itself. So this actually becomes pretty powerful as you're working on this, to really understand how all of your entire timeline of your story is actually working. So I'll stop there. All right, Carrie.
You're muted.
I purchased Scrivener a long time back, and I gave it a try. I'd say probably, let's say 3 months. And I found it too much for what I needed. Because when I wrote back then, it was basically stream of consciousness, and this was way overkill for what I need. In looking at you, I see that it's a newer version, and I can probably do a free upgrade. It's probably not a problem because I know that they've got a very generous policy on that. So I really appreciate you showing me how it would really work with the additional knowledge that I have now on how to correctly craft a novel, let us say. My last novel was a series of short stories, so it really didn't buy me anything. The one question I have, so thank you very much. It's really given me impetus to go back and retry it again and try to incorporate kind of a larger story in that with all the extra tools. Does it have any editing tools? AKA Word has a editor, which is enough for me to help me with my horrendous grammatical handicap that I have. So does it have anything along those lines? Are there add-ons to the product?
As I understand, there's only just spell check, and I think that's it. So there's no other intense grammatical error, like, editing stuff like that. I think you would probably have to use a different program for that process. So that's the only downfall about it. I actually use something called Pro Writing Aid, and there's actually a free version that you can just kind of load your 500 words of your story into Pro Writing Aid, and it gives you a much more robust editing than Word. And that's kind of what I use instead of Word. But like I said, what I showed you is a whole lot of stuff.
Oh yeah,
this is not for everybody. Okay, I understand that. So it's don't feel bad if you're I don't want this. You probably don't need it.
Well, I can truly say that I probably didn't need it, but going forward for new projects, I probably do need it. So I appreciate you showing what it got there and what it can offer.
One thing is I have a Toastmasters project, Scrivener project. I actually split it. So I have I actually organized my pathways into folders. So I have, pathways 1 through 5, and I have all of the titles of all the speeches that I want to do. And I can just kind of type in those things. Each speech, I just kind of type in that one little Scrivener. I don't have to make all these crazy robust stuff. It's actually, it actually organizes all of my Toastmaster work in one file. And I really like that, instead of trying to have it all in different Word documents everywhere. I know I'm going to lose it because I'm a crazy frivolous person. But yeah, I understand. But if you're just short story writing and you have stream of consciousness, and Word is fine. Word is actually very powerful software. It does a lot. The thing that Scrivener is just kind of designed to do the novel process and the short story process. So those are kind of the two different differences between Word and Scrivener. So thank you, Carrie. Oh, Susan.
This question is from Liz. Liz, you want to tell them what you asked?
I just downloaded Grammarly. I'm not super familiar with it, but does it work in Scrivener?
I'm not sure how Grammarly works. I think as anyone else, as Carrie.
Yeah,
I have it.
It does not.
Let
me rephrase that. About 2 years ago, it did not. So take that.
I don't have Scrivener, but I have Grammarly. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually texted into the support at that point in time, and it said no. It didn't say maybe in the future, or if you're lucky, or if you're a really good boy. None of that. Just, no.
Has Grammarly come a long way? Because when I first started it, I was like, well, this is dumb, and then just never picked it up again. So it's gone more robust. It's way better, right? Yeah.
But you still got to proofread it, because sometimes they just change your whole thought, your words, and you have to put that in the trash what they're recommending. No, you don't get what I'm saying. Yeah. You still have to proof it.
Any other questions?
This is awesome. Benjamin, thank you.
Did you like it?
I love
it. All right, cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Lola to ask you for questions that I have.
Okay. Grabbing tomorrow today. And this is tomorrow.
Swati, go ahead.
I was wondering, how long did it take you to learn this?
Yeah. So when I first started it, some of the features I showed you, I wasn't using. I wasn't using snapshots. I wasn't really using the scrivening things really well. I was kind of doing what I was trying to do all the time. Once I write a draft, then I copy that, paste it, and then rewrite it. And now I have 2 separate documents. I was trying to do that in Scrivener, and as I kind of eased into it, I think 6 months, because I was kind of writing on and off. It wasn't full on every day. I kind of slowly learned how to do this. There is there's like a 700-page manual if you really want to get into it.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Woo!
I never read it, so I'm not going to read it. There are plenty of tutorials online that's like learn Scrivener in 20 minutes, and they just go over the basics that you need to do to get something done. It's the thing is, it's so feature rich, you're not going to use all of it. You might use it for some things and for certain projects, other things for other projects. It's just kind of what I had to do to learn it was to understand my own process and how can I use it? How can Scrivener adapt to my process? That's essentially took the longest amount of time. I think it took about 6 months of me just practicing and learning it and understanding it, and kind of moving away from the traditional ideas of writing to more of the Scrivener approach. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I know it sounds like, well, that's intimidating. I don't want to take 6 months to learn something.
We learned Zoom.
You learn Zoom, but I tell you this, like the stuff, the work that I do, like I am very in depth in my stories. I have world building. I just can't, I don't know how to do that in a Word document. It's just, it doesn't work. I tried it with Word, I tried it with Evernote, and I always get files all over the place and I can't find anything. And that's why I just kind of really embrace Scrivener and kind of pushing myself to use it more. Anybody else?
Doesn't Scrivener have a critique group also? Or is that ProWrite?
I don't know. I know there's a community of Scrivener people.
Yeah.
So they're I've never met them or talked to them.
And they will read your stuff, I thought, and
might.
give you feedback. But that's what I thought. About 2 years ago, I researched them. And when I found out they had a critique group, I put them in the can.
Gotcha. One more thing about the iOS version. So I have the iPhone version here, and I kind of use this as my notepad when I'm walking around. So when I'm outside and I have an idea for a short story, I just I actually make a little Scrivener project in my iPhone. I type some notes out, and this thing syncs to Dropbox. So once this thing syncs to Dropbox, I can go to my desktop, and then that whole project is right there on my desktop, and I can just keep going. And then if I save stuff on the desktop and just sync it up to Dropbox, it goes back to my iPhone, and I can go somewhere else. So it's an ecosystem that you can do that. Oh, Carrie.
Do you, for the iOS, do you have to talk? Can you talk, or is it all typing?
I never tried the talking. That might be a good thing to check out. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I use my iPhone and just other things, Evernote and such, and just basically talking to it when I have an idea that I want to make sure that I recall for later on. There is no connectivity to Dropbox or any of the cloud-based products. So, but it works just fine. It's on my phone. I'm now at my desk. I can incorporate it.
That's why I love Rough Riders, because I learn something new every time I come to a meeting or to an extra. Yay for Rough Riders.
All right. All right. I think we're at about 7 minutes out, but anybody else have any questions, concerns? Like, how would you use this in a different way? Anybody else? All right. I think that's going to be it.
Thank you.
To me, it looks like an elaborate mind map.
Yeah.
More than that.
The Literature and Latte company also made a small little mind mapping program called Scrapple. And it's just kind of very simple. You just kind of type in stuff and it'll make little maps. The cool thing is that once you make a little words and stuff, you can actually just drag and drop it into Scrivener and then start using it in your actual writing. So they kind of made it kind of cross compatible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ben, this has been awesome. You've given me new religion here.
All right.
So
I'm going to convert you all.
Yes, that's right.
Amen.
Hey, Ben, what was the name of that from Coffee and where?
Literature and Latte. Let me I'll post the thing in here.
Yeah, if you just type in Scrivener, it'll come up anywhere.
I'll put the link. Literature.
Ubiquitous on the net.
Yeah. So They are a small company. So they actually started off with the Windows, developing the Windows software, and it took them like 5 years to make they started with a Mac version, and they spent like 5 years trying to develop the Windows version from the ground up. So so now they're kind of up and running, but they're kind of a small company, but they actually really care about what writers want, and they designed a software that's really designed for writers. All right. I think that's it, folks.
All right. Thank
All
you,
right.
everyone.
Yes.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Ben.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
You guys
Ben.
are welcome. Just email me your questions.
Will do.
Oh.
All right. I'll
You don't have a
share.
special
You
special
share,
link
I'll
for
share.
I think that's what the guy said as he was walking the plank.
Yeah. Those are my famous last words.
Yeah. Just send me your questions.
Scrivener support may help you. That's your
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.